Congressman Adam Schiff of California. He's the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, it's good to have you here. The first question, how effective is just 450 troops going to be in Iraq?
Well, it's going to have a modest impact in terms of our training capability. The more significant thing is if we can leverage this additional military commitment of trainers and military supplies to get the Iraqi government to make the changes in governance necessary to really bring the Sunnis into the armed forces, bring the Sunnis into governance, because that's the real problem here. Unless that problem is fixed, the Sunnis won't be peeled away from ISIS, and we can send in all the trainers we want, but we need the Iraqi government to deal with their sectarian governance problem and the fact that Sunnis are afraid not only of ISIS and of trying to peel away from ISIS, but afraid of these Iranian-backed Shia militias as well. And that's the key issue I think we have to address, and we need to leverage any additional American military commitment to an Iraqi commitment to deal with that problem.
So how do you interpret President Obama's comments on Monday that we don't have a complete strategy?
I think what he was saying is, as the international partners were getting together, they were talking about how they're going to up the training mission, how they're going to up the pressure on ISIL, and they still have to make improvements in how they're designing that strategy. I don't think you can conflate that to be a broad statement about a lack of strategy. They do have a strategy about fending off these foreign fighters from entering, drying up the resources that are flowing across the Syrian border into Turkey, dealing with the ideological draw, the social media campaign, as well as the military campaign. So I think they have an overarching strategy, but they need work on particular pieces. And I think the most significant piece that really has to be worked on, and this remains to be fleshed out, is how we get this Iraqi government to do what's necessary to really bring the Sunnis into the fold.
Congressman, I want you to listen to this. Our Kristen Welker was just inside the Brady briefing room at the White House press conference and asked a question about the strategy to Josh Earnest. This was his response.
The president is confident that the announcement that he made today to establish essentially a fifth base in Iraq where U.S. military personnel and some coalition military personnel will conduct training, advising, and assist operations will bolster the capacity of both the Iraqi security forces as well as the Sunni tribal fighters in Anbar that are operating under the command and control of the
Congressman, I want to bring in Mikey Kay to the conversation, who gave us a breakdown of the ground violence as well as the turf war that's taking place in Iraq. He has a question for you.
Congressman, hi, it's Michael Kay. I'm very curious. We've got two competing groups here that we know that are very resilient in terms of their past performance. We've got the Peshmerga up in the northeast, and we've got the populist mobilization forces down here, the Hezbollah brigades and the Badr organization. I wonder, what is your personal assessment of the capability of the government of Iraqi forces, the Iraqi security forces, to take on ISIS alone? Or do you think we're going to have to negotiate and broker some deal which will pull in either the Peshmerga or utilize the populist mobilization forces to defeat IS in this region?
Well, I think the Iraqi forces are plainly inadequate, and we saw that in Ramadi, and we've seen that elsewhere also. And I do think earlier on, when we heard people in the military command talk about a spring offensive on Mosul, that was hopelessly optimistic. I think the key priority ought to be, frankly, taking the time to train up the Iraqi forces, not relying on these Shia militias, which are just going to aggravate the sectarian problem, but rather, and not substituting American boots on the ground for Iraqis that need this job. So the Peshmerga, I think, are a very capable fighting force, and the challenge there is we need to make sure they get the weapons they need. I'd love to see us providing weapons directly to Erbil, and you could have representatives of the Baghdad central government in Erbil to allocate those shipments and be there. But I think we really do need to make sure that the Kurds get the support they need. We need to make sure that we ramp up the training for the Sunnis and deal with those governance problems. But the last thing I would really want to do is rely on these Iranian-backed Shia militias, because that, I think, is moving in the wrong direction in dealing with the sectarian problems at the heart of this struggle.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.